Chart thinking. So when you start with the limits, and you're gonna go and you're gonna plug in the value. So remember question 4, it has a radical, but you guys didn't try to plug in the value. Plug in the value. And then if you got a number, you're done. Right? You're done. So if you got a number, you're done. So not D and E, done. You don't need to do any further. If you plug in number, you got a 0 over 0. And today we're going to talk about number over 0. But 0 over 0 has a cancel factor. So you need to know how to cancel factor. You need to know how to factor something. Factor the cube, factor difference of square, factor trinomial, factor by grouping. This all kind of stuff can happen on the first possibility. Second possibility, you got radical, then you got a conjugate. You got third thing. What is third thing can happen? You got a complex fractions, which is the question that a lot of people struggle yesterday. I think Isabel was struggling that question. What question is that? Question 3. That one that Luke just went over. That's combined fractions. That was a really difficult one, by the way. But 4. It's gonna be absolute value. Now this one is gonna have some type of hybrid between here and here. And there is a 5 and there's trig limits. Trig limits, lovely. Now, I think we are doing the easiest part of the math, which is number over 0. So you can have a number over 0 situation. Now let's talk about number over 0. If you get number over 0, you're going to do something called one-side limits. The usually result, if the number over 0, usually result is going to be result is either it's infinity, negative infinity. Sometimes if you reach a number, it does not exist. Sometimes that you can have possible 3 things can happen. Actually, Mario, you guys want to sit up here in the future so you can see? You can see over there? Okay. You can get infinity, negative infinity, and does not exist. What do you mean by that? Oh, we kind of sort of get into it the other day. Is what happened when you have a vertical asymptote, right? So for example, let's say it's 1 over x minus 2. And we're not gonna graph first. We're not gonna graph first. We're gonna actually just leave it alone for a while. We're gonna say, hey, 1 over x minus 2. I want to find out when limits x approach 2. Now 2, it's an interesting thing. What do you do when you plug in limits? You plug in a value. What'd you get? A number over 0 situation. Now, automatically trigger on the other side of the route. It doesn't have nothing to do with cancel factoring, radical, complex fraction, conjugate. It automatically doesn't have that. But sometimes you can get a 0 over 0 and flow back that become number over 0. Sometimes you can have that happen. After you cancel factor, you plug in, you got number over 0, you had to do one-side limit. That can happen. But if you have 1 over x minus 2, that's number over 0, so that means you need to do 2 things. Why 2 things? Because we're approaching to 2. If we're approaching to 2, we must look for what? Both ends, right? So therefore, it's going to be limits x approach 2 from the left. That's one-side limits of 1 over x minus 2. Limit x approach 2 from the positive side of 1 over x minus 2. One-side limits. what happened? You plug in 2 from the left side. What does that mean? That means somewhere in between numerical approach. Numerical approach, I want you to approach it this way. I would choose 0.1 away from 2, but it's less. So which number I will pick? 1.9. So it'll be 1 over 1.9 minus 2. Now guess what? I don't really care about the value. I only care about the sign. What do you think the final sign is going to be? Negative, because the top is positive. The bottom's 1.9 minus 2. That becomes negative. So that's equal to negative infinity. Okay, Josh is falling asleep. There you go. So that's going to be negative infinity. And if you plug in, that says, why is it negative infinity? I'm going to show you. If I plug in 1.9, that's going to be 1 over negative 0.1. That's equal to what? Negative 10. Does that make sense? 1 over 1.99 minus 2 is going to be 0.01. Because we are approaching, that's going to be negative 100. Now, as the number gets closer, it's going to give you negative infinity. The more closer it gets, the more 0 you add on. So because eventually it becomes infinite. Now, if you plug in positive part, it's going to be 1 over 2.1 minus 2. That's going to be 1 over 0.1. That's equal to positive. If it's positive, I'm going to say positive infinity. Therefore, what is the answer for this one? The answer for this one does not exist. Why? Because I reached for a number, and I got number over 0. And I decided to do one-side limits on both sides. Then eventually I says, well, they both equal to different values or different ideas. We're talking about infinite as an idea. It's not really real, but we conclude that since they reach both extremes, then it's going to be does not exist. Is that okay? Now, what happened with this one? What if I ask you, says limit x approach to 1 of 1 minus x squared? Whew. I know you know it. So this is where I have a problem with you, at least. You know what you're doing, but you gotta be confident. Don't ever question yourself. Either you're wrong, you're right, you're gonna go with it. Just say it's positive infinity. My final answer. That's why when you walk in, your posture is like kind of like timid. I don't want you to be timid. I want to be coming with whole heads up high and just like, yeah, this is my answer. Okay, you're a very capable student. You just need to be confident. It doesn't matter what you do in life. You gotta be confident. You can be a chef. You can be a teacher, doctor, whatever. Whatever you're gonna do, be confident. Don't be like timid. You are smart. You're absolutely right. It's positive infinity. So limit x approach 1 from the left side. If you plug in 1 minus, which number I plug in? Is what? 1 minus what? 0.9, right? But since I'm squaring it, it doesn't matter what happened. It's going to give you a negative, or it's going to be positive infinity. So limits x approach to 1 from the positive side, 1 minus x to the square, then I can plug in the number of 1.1 square. That is going to be positive infinity. Therefore, it's positive infinity. Yes. So I look at it both sides. Giovanna, does that make sense? Are you sure? Now we got a positive infinity and negative infinity. What happens if you have okay, now we're gonna go to that. What happens if you have limits as x approach to 2 from the left side of 1 over negative 1 over x minus 2? I only approach one side, so we just do one side limit. Sean, what do you think?
It would be positive infinity. Yeah, positive infinity.
Omar, what do you think?
Because it would be a negative on the top. Oh, that's right.
That's absolutely right.
So it's be negative.
Oh yeah, that could be 1x plus 20 minus 21. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
That would be negative infinity because
That'd be negative infinity because you got negative 1, 1.9 minus 2, right? That's going to be negative 1 over absolute value of negative 0.1. That's negative 1 over positive 0.1. So that's going to be negative infinity. So the answer is going to be negative infinity. Questions?
left side isn't just like left side. It's moving left side. Anything that's less than 2.
And 0.1 away. You just plug in because you know one side limit. Well, one side limit, your first thing still plug in. So if you plug in here 2, it's going to give you negative. So if you plug in 2 in here, it's going to be negative 1 over 0. If it's negative 1 over 0, then you have to do one side limit. Well, they already told you one side limit, so. Well, the reason why you plug in 0.1 away, thank you mentioned that. So let's go back to those questions. Let's look at the graphic approach. Most of you guys don't actually think about graphing. Now, like I said, if you guys do your homework yesterday and you did not use decimals, I'm telling you, the highest score you can get is 4. Because you guys don't used to visualize things, think about what is happening in graph. You're not making connection between graph and math. So if you don't do that process, that's why I say don't check on Mathway. Don't check on Photomath. Check on decimals. What the graph look like. The more you look at a graph, the more you're understanding. If you look at this graph at x minus 2, 2 is the asymptote. The graph's going to be like this. And that's why they're not reaching the same value because they're approaching 2. One's going to infinity, one's going to negative infinity. Why do I do 0.1 away? Because if you have 0.1 away, for example, 0.1 away right here, it's going to tell you it's which direction it goes to. Because sometimes the thing going like this, right? If you use some number is really far away, they still look as a positive number. So use 0.1 away, usually will result into this part. It doesn't matter what graph is the first graph or let's say second graph, it's still going to go to negative directions. So if you plug in that, say, well, what if I plug in instead of 2 from the left, I just plug in 1. But if I plug in 1 here, I get positive value. So you want to get some value that's somewhat in a close proximity into the asymptote. Does that make sense? And for this particular graph, this is going to be 1 over x. At 1, there's an asymptote. and the graph's gonna be like a volcano. Why is volcano? Because they both go into positive infinity, and this both has had a vertical asymptote at 1, and that's the graph can be. It actually have a horizontal asymptote, and we're gonna talk about that. There's a horizontal asymptote here, and later on we're gonna talk about horizontal asymptote is actually bisexual. That's gonna be an exciting lesson. Huh?
That's what it is.
Okay. So yes. Questions. All right, so now we're gonna deal with the absolute value. Remember this one I circled that go in here? This is a tricky one. This is tricky because this is like hybrid of 0 over 0 and a number over 0 cases. So let's look at the case. Let's say limits x approach to 3 at x minus 3 over x minus 3 like this. And you say, oh yeah, approaching 3. What's the first thing when I plug in, when I do limits? Then what am I going to get? 0 over 0. Obviously, I cannot factor, I cannot do conjugate, I cannot do combined fraction. All three are out of choices. Your last choice says absolute value. What do I do with absolute value? Guess what? I told you this is a hybrid between 0 over 0 and number over 0. You should do one-side limit. But not only you do one-side limits, you have to understand what's x minus 3 graph look like. So look at this graph. You say, hey, what does this graph look like? Absolute value x minus 3. What does that graph look like? Wesley, do you know what the graph of absolute value x minus 3 look like?
It's gonna look like a 8 to the right.
To the right. Good, good. Your pencil was marking to the left. I was like,
to my right.
oh, okay, okay. To the right, yes. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's gonna be like this. Now, I already told you absolute value has a piecewise function. You got to figure out what those pieces are. Remember, this is very important. This is a positive version of x minus 3, and this is a negative version of x minus 3. Now, since I'm reaching 3, I got 0 over 0, but there's nothing else I can do. I'm going to choose to do one-side limits on this particular case. So I'm going to choose to do both sides. Limits x approach 3 from the left of x absolute value x minus 3 over x minus 3. Then if I was to choose from the left side, I must choose the left function. The left function is going to be negative of x minus 3 over x minus 3. If limits x approach 3 from the left. Now you're going to cancel out. That's going to give you negative 1. Therefore is negative 1. Limit x approach 3 from the right of x minus 3 over x minus 3. I'm going to say limit x approach 3 from the positive side. I'm going to choose positive version of that function. You're going to have to, sorry, this one's minus. And if that's the case, this 2 can cancel out, becomes 1. So you see one side is going to positive 1, one side is going to negative 1. This is actually does not exist. But I could have asked you one side limit. Then you would have said that's going to 1 or going to negative 1, depending on which side I asked you. So I need you to figure out two things. 2 from the left and 2 from the right in this particular situation because it's approaching 2. They all reach different values. You gotta figure out what are those value. And after that, you're gonna have the graph on decimals. 你想一定要 write down stuff. Okay, at the end, if you limits x approach 2 from the left, this one's kind of hard. So it'll be x plus 2 and x minus 2 if I choose the factor. On the bottom, I'm going to have to choose x minus 2 from the left because that's a negative sign. Does that make sense? So that's going to cancel out. That's going to be negative x plus 2. If you plug in x approach 2 from the left side, that's going to give you negative 4. If you're approaching 2 from the positive side, it's going to give you positive 4. So the graph is actually does not exist. Limit x approach 2 from the positive side with x plus 2 over x minus 2 over x minus 2. Cancel out. That's going to be 4. So that does not exist. It's not does not exist. A positive side is 4, and negative side is negative 4. Therefore, it does not exist. Because this region 2, the 2 is not from positive side and negative side. It's both sides. If I limit a to one single number, you should analyze from both ends.
Yeah, I just I didn't say that.
I'm trying to figure
Have a good day,
out.
Mr. Yeah. I want to read it the homework because I
I'll try to get that.
Different wording and that's it.
not into it though. After this.
Oh.
You're all right, that's it.
Yes.
I want to figure out what we should do.
Are you open for lunch?
Yeah, you can come at lunch. I'm not necessarily helping because I probably grab lunch.
People here during lunch though. Like, I agree with you. It's just that for me, I'm really bad at asking for help. And because it, like, for me, it's like kind of like, it's not actually embarrassing, but it feels like part of it is like if I don't understand the first question on the homework, then it's like it feels weird to ask about it 'cause it's like I'm asking about question 1 and I still have.
Oh, that's not true. The question 1 is the hardest one. Yes, Ray.
So
So the things about it is, no, I don't think that's an excuse. The thing is, you didn't even go fight for it. There was not even question 1 of situation. I have kids. I will tell you, in my second period, I have a kid score 420 on SAT math. 420. You probably 200 points higher than her. She put more work than you can ever think of. And I'd rather keep her than you. You score almost a 580 or 600. I'd rather keep her than you. And that's no offense, because the kids put work.
right.
And I believe in her. I think she can reach higher score than you at the end.
That's fine.
That's the goal. The goal is never about the ability or not ability. The ability is the thing is you didn't go fight. If you choose to fight, you will work quite smart. And I see you commenting on thing before, so it's not like you doesn't ask question. Half the people probably doesn't know who Sean Miller is and doesn't really care about. But there are people who will ask, there are people who can help. It doesn't matter. I even offer you help at lunchtime, but you never come in. So it's not like anything. It's like, dude, it's the kid have no effort. It's no effort. That's a multiplier inside their ability. And what I mean is like this: if a person have 100% of talent, if their multiplier is 0, then the result is going to be a 0 in my class. And if the person has a multiplier of 100 and her ability is only 1, then she's still going to get 100. But I don't see any effort from you, and there's this 0 multiplier. That's the thing that I'm looking at.
Right, so what do you want me to do?
I'm asking you to do work and fight for it. Yeah, but I've been asked that's day 1. Not like day 10 or day 20. Right now it's day 20. And you're still not willing to put in the work. It's not gonna survive. There are people putting work. I will show you. I don't even need to grade this paper. This pre-calculus test. You can't even pass this test. In this test, on the top, it doesn't say pre-calculus. It's algebra 1, algebra 2. So I don't even have to look. I can say, this person's crap. This person is crap. This person is crap. This person is okay. This person is okay. This person is okay. This person is crap. Okay. Crap. 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 Okay. I don't even need a grade paper. I can just look at the name and assign their grade. I don't even need to look at the paper. I don't even need to grade everything. But I can probably tell you at first page, I can predict their grade. I can look at a person, I can predict the people's SAT scores. But there are people who put efforts. This kid is putting efforts on the things. And you know that this efforts will result to good grades. I don't even need to look at everything. I'm just like, yeah, this is about 85%. And trust me, if I grade it, it's going to be 85%. So I haven't in the past, I've looked at a person, I was like, okay, you, SAT score. And then call their SAT score on the spot. Once I get to know him about 2 or 3 months. And if they take a reason. So the thing is, you don't put in the effort, there's no result. Multiplier is the only thing I'm looking for. You can have 100 and talent, multiplier is 0, then your answer is, your result is going to be 0. You can have a 1 on the ability, and if you have multiplier is 100, then the result is 100. So that's the things I'm looking at. Right now, your multiplier is negative. And that's as flat as it goes. I have not a single person every single person put in more work than you, and their talent is not even close to where you are. So there's no point of doing that. There's no point for me to give you bad grade. I don't want to give anybody bad grade. But when it push and shove, I have to base on what I see. What I see right now is I don't see nothing. And that grade is going to be a stance. So it's not what you can do. You know what you're supposed to. Don't ask me. You have to work. You have to work like this much on every single problem, and not just only question 1, question 2, question 3, question 10. It's all the way through. Every single question. Even you got it completely wrong. I honestly don't give a shit if you got it right or wrong, because I cannot see what everybody's answer. The only time I see the answer, people, if you get it right or wrong, is a test. That's the only thing I base on. The test score. That's it. Now, if I don't see the test score, if the kid sent Nieve last year, I gave her a B. She got a 10, 15, 10, 15 on every single test. She fought more than you can ever dream of. She skipped her first period to come to my class, take a lesson, come back at 7th period in her AP calculus class. She actually do that class again. She do 2 classes a day. She try to pass my class, but she still got a 15 on the test. And she did all the homework. She spent hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. I said, Sam, I don't care. I don't care what the test result is. And I don't care what happened to you. Tony can tell you. Tony's in the same class as Sam. Right? Sam, do you remember Sam?
Oh yeah.
She never scored anything past 20. Any test, she didn't score past 20. You know what a grade I give it to her? I give her a B. And you know what happened at the end? Not a pass every single test. Got a 20 on every single test, and she got a 3 on AP exam. And that's the things I'm looking for. I'm not looking for. Look, if the judge come to me, the judge doesn't need me to teach him. He can have Mr. Ollie teach him calculus, and he can pass it. But I'm looking for a kid that people like Chase, who doesn't even think that he will come to my class. I had to chase him. Yes, it's like chasing Chase. It's like really funny. Last year I had to chase him. I was like, Chase, I'm gonna put you in calculus. I'm gonna go talk to Parati, change the schedule. He can tell you that's true. And he run away. He run away faster than he can. Every time I see Mr. Ye, it's like, oh, Mr. Ye, gotta go. But this year he's fighting. Tony failed my class last year. It's coming back. You have a chance to fight, or you have a chance to lose. Two possibilities for you. You decide. And see you later. All right. How was the homework yesterday? It's hard.
Number 3. I don't know if I thought it was a negative thing or positive? That's the only one I was like, what am I doing wrong? I think it was like an algebra mistake.
I don't think you make an algebra mistake.
I think I was like, what am I doing?
Okay, can you tell me what the question is?
Limit 2x plus 8 over x squared minus 12.
What? 2x squared?
So 2x plus 8
2x plus 8
over
x squared what?
minus 12
Minus 12
minus 1 over x.
minus 1 over x?
And then all over x plus 6.
X plus 6. And the x approaching what?
Oh, there's, oh, I guess.
So at the end, it's going to be 0 on the bottom. Negative 6, that's going to be what? 24. And negative 6 is negative 12 plus 8. So it's negative 4 plus 1 over 6. So it's 0 over 0. Yep, 0 over 0. And then you say, okay, that means do math. What kind of math here?
You gotta get the same common denominator.
Okay, so you multiply this by x minus 12 over x squared minus 12. And this x over x.
Yeah.
So limit x approach to negative 6 over x plus 6. On the top, it's going to be x times x squared minus 12. This one's going to distribute to this parenthesis. So it'll be 2x squared plus ax minus x squared plus 12. It's plus 12 because you got distributed negative sign. That's what usually people make mistake, is this negative sign's not distribute the second one.
I didn't distribute the x to the
X squared minus 12 times 1 over x plus 6.
yeah.
And then plug in negative 6, so it's going to be negative 4 over negative 6 times 36 minus 12.
Yeah.
That's equal to positive 2 over 3 times 24 and 2 over 72, 1 over 36.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. It's an algebra mistake. You guys need to fix your algebra skill. And if you fix the algebra skill, you'd be phenomenal.
I didn't distribute the x.
What does 4 say?
X squared plus 7x.
Okay, so I'm gonna introduce you the flowchart. What did you do on the flowchart?
Oh, four. Just think about it. Got you. Right? Plug it in. Plug it in.
Man, did you do your homework?
No, I'm being serious. I need to write down your flow charts.
Yeah. The first one. You got.
Man, you wanna work with Ethan over there, or
This is his bathroom.
because that way you have people to work with, ask people, consult people. You can sit next to Ethan, and if you have a question, if there's a bounce idea bounce out, unless you don't like white people. Then you can put it over there. Ethan does. You don't like white people, do you?
Talk to people. This is racist.
She's racist. I am. So what? I own up to it.
Most people are racist. You sound like but you explain, you're not racist because you treat everybody equally.
Yeah.
But everyone at some level, I would say, at some point, reason was
Right. What? Flowchart?
She says 30 minutes written down.
Well, yes, no, see, no, you also have to control it in your head. You can't cancel.
You can cancel me, I can fire it. And all you guys can call me to.
Exactly. Yeah, it's paperwork.
Yeah.
We just have a ton of level here, and we're like,
You know how people get canceled after they hold my shit in? There's country singer like saying something about like bad thing, like I don't know, something against black person or something like that. And end up like his concert sold out and everything, all the way like was good. And so and all the concerts packed. And then so my goal is to get canceled.
yeah.
And become viral. And I'll be like calling people and I was like, thank you so much.
We can get you to a million subscribers.
Yeah.
We just gonna like take it from cards and then. So people. But by the time they got there, I already hit. And then I think they.
Check the gentleman. I thought you holding the door for it. Oh, yeah.
I think that's.
Oh,
They're like 100 million, like maybe. Oh, I've never done it. I never watched it. Actually, I'm very
You are. This one doesn't work because what was if you want to cancel something, it has to be a fact.
So let's just say.
Alright.
If I have 4 plus 3, you can change the thing. I can cancel it, you know, but. So I'm really. So I can take out the 2 plus 1. Yeah, so if it's then the 5 is down to 2.
Okay.
Now,
2x over.
because the result here was that 3 over 5.
This is cancel.
It's still 3
So
over 5.
x on the top is always going to be equal to 0.
3 times 8.
If we do the bottom, 0 plus 2 is 8. It doesn't matter. It's going to open the as long as the bottom doesn't. If you got 0. Oh,
Tell me more.
Oh wait, no, you might be.
What's going on?
Yeah, because it's the same.
You'll know when I ask.
That's the whole thing. That's the first thing. I did this the first time. That number was not taken into account. Modern Brian.
Have you heard the song Ching Ching Chong by Rocket
No, it sounds very racist.
You should look it up. You might like it.
I like it. Do you see me jamming in the car with that song? You see me jamming in the car with that song? That's
I'm
open.
already down for you. Oh, you're asking about.
Yeah, we're local cooking. Yeah.
Like,
You keep the motivation up, you know what I'm saying?
No, Corbin.
please listen to it.
No, Corbin. No.
I will pay you.
No.
I will pay you for this.
Corbin trying to bribe me to listen to this song called Ching Ching Chong. Huh? No.
There's no way.